Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. We record these interviews so potential buyers have more information about the seller and the business to help them make a buying decision. Now, before we dive in, let's go over a brief summary of this business. It is an affiliate and display advertising business created in April of 2009 in the travel, lifestyle, and hospitality niches. The average monthly revenue for the business is $8,692 and makes an average of $8,603 per month in net profit. The assets included in the sale are a domain and all site content and files, social media accounts and pages, which include Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest, an email list with over 3,000 subscribers, and just as a disclaimer, Mediavine does require a minimum of 50,000 sessions per month in order to be accepted into their program. If a buyer's Mediavine application is not approved during the migration process, they have the option to move forward with a different ad network or reverse the deal. So for everyone listening, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing 67917 to learn more about the business, or you can unlock this listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing this asset. So that's a brief overview of the business for sale. Let's hear from the seller with me today. So welcome to the show, Steph. How are you doing today?
First of all, thanks for having me into the podcast. It's really nice to be here. And fantastic day here in Australia.
Yes, well, it is great to have you here, and I'm looking forward to learning more about you and your business. We talked a little bit before the call about this, but can you tell us a little bit about your background in building and running online businesses in general, or this business in particular?
Yes, about this business, I started in 2009, so almost 15 years ago, and I started as a photography display. Back in the days, I was more of a photographer as a job. And then soon I started also writing about my trips just because of the feedbacks and the comments that few of the readers sent me. And, in 2013, 2014, the traffic was growing, but was not monetized. And those days I started thinking, well, you know what, I could actually take this blog to different level where I could make some money. And, I studied SEO, monetization process, and I created more of an online business, something that it wasn't like that in 2009. I've reduced, I must say, more and more my photography work, and I expanded more and more my blog site. And after 15 years, I really consider this website almost like my little kid, where I played a lot, but I was able also to take it to a different level where it is actually today a business compared to 2009 when it was more of a, photography exhibition center for my work.
Yeah, and this does have kind of a different feel compared to other sellers that I discuss with, because you did start this without the initial intention of it being at least an online business monetized through display advertising income, but it was more of a photography portfolio and a way to show people where you're traveling and the images that you're taking, and you turned this into a business. It does sound like a very close to the heart type of business.
Totally. And, I worked for almost 20 years in the IT industry, so it was easy for me to set up a website. That was not an issue. And I work as well into the travel IT related. So I understood the business behind traveling, and I applied my knowledge, that business, into my new business, into the new website. So it was a sort of transition from real business, corporate business, as I used to have, into more of a personal business.
Okay, so you weren't a photographer by profession. It was more of a hobby, or maybe you did some freelance work, but then your other career was in IT and travel IT. Is that right?
Yeah, I like to think as a football game when the first half was into the IT travel industry. Then I had the second half into photography and blogging as well.
Yeah, I could see how those could work well with you traveling to all of these beautiful places. Okay. Well, it has certainly been a journey. So, why are you deciding to sell the business now instead of keeping it and growing it even further?
Well, I guess the main reason is really timing, which I don't have anymore in my life. I'm launching a new startup into a completely different business of home loans and mortgages. And I really need to dedicate some time there in order to start it. And I have a kid too, which I'm taking care of. He's 9 years old. So time is becoming a little bit of a constraint at the moment. And this kind of websites, usually a passive way to make money, obviously, but you always need to look after them. You don't need to dedicate a huge amount of time, but you need to dedicate some time. And if I would leave a website just going, I would probably still monetize it for the next, 12, 24 months. But I reckon that if I don't touch it in 3, 4 years, it's going to collapse. That's why I want to sell it now when it's really going fine. And I'm sure actually it can be taken to the next level where you can double, if not triple, the income on it.
Yeah. And this business, certainly since the past 2 years, have not been kind on the travel industry, but it certainly has made a huge rebound. And I can definitely see this growing further. So you've been doing a lot of things right with this, all things considered. So, what would you say you've learned from building this business that worked or that contributed to this bounce back and the success that you're experiencing right now?
Well, SEO is, and we will talk more probably about traffic, but SEO is super important. I changed the way, in the last few years to write more about monetizing my content and based on monetization intent and actually writing about my experiences in traveling, which could be useful that probably you can make also some money with advertising because of the traffic. But I guess you can also try to write in order to make more money and to increase your monetization. So there are amazing stories to write when traveling, but only a few can be really monetized. So the idea was to focus on traffic, yes, for advertising, but also on what so-called the money makers post for affiliation. And I'm thinking here about accommodation, as you said, hospitality, excursion for activities, and all these kinds of affiliation.
Yeah, and I'm sure that required a shift to think in that way when you decided to change the direction of the site towards more of the monetized blog. And during that time, was there anything you tried with this business that didn't work?
Well, as I said, writing about my experiences didn't work. Sometimes, you can have your family reading your blog, but probably that's not really a business. And I try also to use the socials, more Instagram and Twitter, where I have, I guess, a good follow up around 100,000 people, both in IG, in Instagram and Twitter, and to make straight money out of that. But it's probably too time consuming because you need to contact agencies and in order to have sponsorships or trips and so on and so forth. They are amazing thought for branding, creating opportunities, creating connections. My Twitter account was absolutely excellent in creating business relationship, for example, with a country in Southeast Asia where we did a lot of work together. Every, I guess, field has their own meaning and their own scope of work. And the socials, I started using them to direct traffic, but it didn't work that way. It was more really for branding.
Mm. You said that you were able to form some partnerships through the use of Twitter. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, that's correct. I was able to contact, when you have a good follow up to these ministries, to this association, eager to work with you because you work with your socials and you're able to show the place and display what a destination has to offer. And that's the first step, and they are happy for that and they need that. Obviously, then you have also a website on the back where you can write. So you can really offer entire package to a destination from show and branding, which is Instagram and Twitter, to content provider, that is your website. And in that way, I was able to build the relationships with a few clients.
Okay, nice. Good to know kind of what the different uses are for these different social platforms. As I think, especially people newly building websites, they'll think just build out a lot of social channels and just try to scale without necessarily thinking about the different purpose that they serve. So interesting to hear how Twitter specifically or how these social channels apply to this business in particular. Well, let's talk a little bit about how traffic is generated. I see that we have a lot of organic, but was there anything you'd like to explain about how you drive traffic? I know we just talked about social sources as well.
Yeah, most of my traffic is organic, and I'm also proud to have around 10-15% of direct traffic. That comes indirectly also from, my social accounts, because the brand is known and the name of a website is not related to myself as a person. So it's really a brand that people recognize. And for few destinations, I'm really, one of the top ranking websites. So people and visitors come back to me straight into the website. They're more into Google searches. And that makes me a little bit proud, because that tells me that I'm doing a good job. About the Google searches, honestly, I love to have organic traffic. Having organic traffic for what I'm doing, for the post that I try to monetize, it's very good, because there is already a search intent from the visitor. So they come to my post already with idea to either book an hotel, book an activity, join, for example, an excursion, which is perfect. They don't come to my website because they have a curiosity, because I posted it on Facebook, for example, so it comes up on someone's feed and they say, oh, that's nice, so let's see what's happening there. No, they come to the website because they really already they have already the idea to do something. And that's where I think I'm able to convert very well from traffic to monetization.
Nice. So you rank well for some high purchase intent keywords, it sounds like. So can you describe the amount and the type of work that you do on this business now to maintain it? I'm sure it's different from when you first built it in 2009, but just explaining about these days, what does the amount and the type of work look like?
Well, it really depends how much I travel. I had quite an intense period in the last 6 months. I was changing accommodation every 4 days on average. So I guess if you average down the full year in the last 12 months, I have about 10 hours per week into the business. With these 10 hours per week, I'm able to usually write one new post, or let's say on average 1.5 posts every week, and also to update some of the past content in order to keep it fresh and always, ranking on the first page of Google.
Got it. So you are still writing all of your own content on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I like it to keep it this way. I got also last year, because I was traveling so much, a writer doing some work for me, especially into an area of the world which is US, where you probably well know that it's the best part to make money travel-wise. And he helped me a lot in doing that. But honestly, I like to write what I experience.
Yeah, well, I can see an opportunity for growth here. And actually, that's the next question. If you were to keep the business, what are some ways you would try to grow it?
Yeah, connecting to what I just said, creating more content for US blog followers, which means more content for Mexico, Costa Rica, for example, places where Americans tend to travel a lot. That's where the RPM is better paid. Just to give an example, the RPM for 1,000 views from US is 4 times as much valuable as from UK. So there is a huge difference there. Relaunching my emails. You mentioned that I have over 3,000, it's actually almost 4,000 emails. But I had a little bit of a lack of action into emails, and mostly because of a pandemic in the last 2 years. I always felt that it's better to create content during that time than sending emails of talking about destination nobody could go anywhere.
Yep, that was probably a wise decision.
So this is something that definitely could be invested. Very launching on the socials, Instagram and Twitter after the pandemic for the same exact reason. Again, not much point to show a picture of my bedroom and create digital products. I'm experimenting with my first product, which is Destination Guide, and see how it goes. Just because of the 15% that I said direct traffic that I receive. So definitely there is some market for people that come to my website and because of a brand and not because of a search. So people that are ready to invest a little bit more of money on destination guides, especially seeing all of the content. And destination guides really based on my present content. So there is not a huge effort in making a book from the present content and adding a couple of things more.
Yeah. And to combine that with your email list, I can imagine an opportunity here. Both you warm up that email list, send out to reacquaint yourself to your community, and then eventually promoting that product to the email list to get the sales going there. That could be a nice little combination.
Exactly right.
Nice. Okay. So, what do you think are the biggest risks then with this business that a buyer should be aware of?
I guess one of the biggest risks that you have when you have so much organic traffic is the Google update that can change things. So far, I didn't have experienced any traumatic change in traffic because of Google updates, which is good. Sometimes you're lucky because you don't get penalized by Google updates. Sometimes it's just because you write good content, which is independent from black hat, SEO, or anything that you want to take a shortcut to write content. Sometimes you're just unlucky, and Google penalize your traffic. But what I noticed when 3-4 years ago, I possibly got penalized, the traffic bounced back straight away after a couple of months. So I'm not very concerned about Google updates on the traffic that I'm producing on this website. Other problems, of course, we got 2 years of COVID. Hopefully it's finished. Can we have another COVID? I don't think so. I mean, it's very remote risk, in my opinion. In fact, it's actually a good thing to have a travel website this time because traveling is bouncing back. And supposedly, in the next few years, we will have a huge increase in traffic and revenues related to traveling.
Yeah. And to your point about the Google algorithm updates, whether it's luck or the fact that you've produced high quality content, I think with a site had as many years since you grew it since 2009, it's far less likely that this is luck than it just being a website built off of a solid foundation. And yeah, to your point about the travel industry as a whole being affected, I mean, that's always a possibility. But yeah, I mean, we're seeing that travel websites are experiencing a spike because people are now definitely ready to travel after not being able to do so for several years. So I definitely understand where you're coming from there. Okay. Well, a few questions to wrap this up then. How much support are you willing to offer buyers?
Well, I call it my little kid, even if I have a real one. But this is probably the almost 15 years old little kid. And I'm happy to give a 30 days, of course, which is the standard with the selling of a business. But I'm happy also to continue that and, for more than 4 weeks, more than 30 days, based on an agreement we can do with the seller. So we can do that maybe with weekly calls or whenever it is needed. We can buy tokens by the hour. I'm really open to everything to keep this business successful and for the buyer to take it to the next level.
Okay, great. And yep, the minimum is 30 days. So that's very generous of you to offer more than that. Okay. And the next question then is, would you commit to a non-compete after this business is sold?
Absolutely, as a website, but out of transparency, I have to say I have a YouTube channel about traveling as well, which is not part of the sale. It's a very personal YouTube channel and it doesn't make much money. In fact, I'm not really sure why I keep it, but it's a good fun for me. It's only, I think 6,000 followers, but it's more really of a personal thing that I want to keep. And it wouldn't make sense also to sell it because my face is all over these channels and it will be way too personalized.
Yeah. Okay. If anybody's listening to this and they want to have a more detailed conversation about that, I definitely recommend discussing that with Steph on a call directly. Yep, that sounds good. Okay. And are you open to something like an earnout?
The size of a business is not as big, so I probably not open to an earnout. But as I said, it's not like I sell it and run away. I'm really happy to give all of the support that is needed. So that's the main reason, really.
Okay, sounds good. And putting yourself in the shoes of a buyer, why do you think this is a business worth buying?
My opinion is that this is the perfect time to enter the travel industry for a couple of reasons. As we said, 2 years of pandemic, so there are plenty of opportunities to go up in the next few years. And also, it's the right start of the year to buy a travel destination website because the time where you will make more money with travel websites like this is obviously during the Northern Hemisphere summer, and that's where hotels are booked, experiences are booked. So it's good time to buy now a travel website and not in September when the season is over and you will have like 6 months in front of you with very low income.
Yep, you'd have to wait essentially until the next vacation peak.
Yeah, this is a very seasonal website. You can obviously build destinations, guides for the Southern Hemisphere, but it's a matter of fact that people travel more in the Northern Hemisphere summer than in the Southern Hemisphere summer. And also, European and Americans create potential for the income, which is way superior to the income that you can get from Southeast Asia, for example, or Central American destinations.
Yeah. And you bring up a good point about it. Seasonal businesses are just a different type of business. Sometimes people would ask if, I guess, if a seasonal business or a non seasonal business is better. And it's not better or worse, it's just a different type of business model. But then, yes, going back to your point about growth opportunities and being able to leverage more other North American destinations for North American traffic to other destinations, there might be some opportunity to even out the seasonality a little bit more if you were to look at other countries as well. So I can definitely see that opportunity there.
Totally correct. And I originally come from very high mountains. I'm not into cold destinations like winter destinations, something that definitely is an opportunity if you want or if you are keen into traveling into winter destination. This could be skiing destinations or any kind really of travel destination in winter.
Yep, that definitely sounds like that would be a perfect role for a freelance writer who enjoys being out in the snow.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Steph, is there anything you'd like to add that you think I might have missed during the interview?
Well, just a couple of things I may want to add here. In this business, if you check it out, you will see that there are about 6, 7 affiliation programs. But that's what I had in the last few years. The reason being is that I always want to test what works best from an affiliation perspective. But nowadays, I have only, I think, 4 affiliations programs to run, which is very, very manageable. And the reason being, as I said, is that I test a few programs for a few months. If they don't work, them out. If they do work, that's perfect. That's how you find sometimes, I guess, hidden gems where you never think you can make money there, then suddenly you make, which is good. And the second thing is about, I guess, if you check the traffic of his website, you will see that last September, October, there was a reduction in traffic. Obviously, this is related to seasonality of a website. But I think in this case, 2022, I'm talking, was also the fact that there was no support from the Southeast and Australian destinations that I have on my website, just because tourism still not started on this side of the world. It's predicted to start the end of this year. And so I expect the traffic at the end of 2023 to be much more substantial than experienced in 2022. For example, I've just been back home now for a couple of months after 6 months around the world in Australia. And I tell you, there is no international tourism. It just doesn't exist. It's all Australian. And we will see, I think, by the end of this year, both here and in Southeast Asia, where I was also lately, a much bigger bounce back.
I did not realize that most of the tourists were not international that you saw. So that does sound like a very big opportunity. Well, I would say if there's any question about the trajectory after looking through the listing itself, the earnings, the traffic, to definitely have a more detailed call with Steph about any questions about the prospects of the website and the industry. So, Steph, I think this is the best place to wrap this up. So, thanks so much for sharing your story and joining us on today's episode. And I do hope your business is purchased in the near future and by the right buyer.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 67917. And if you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. And once you've unlocked this listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.